me when you are all alone.
Fallout 4 was the first Fallout game I ever played. I had tried New Vegas off the recommendation of a friend, but that was when I was in middle school and the only games I cared about were NBA 2K and Call of Duty, so my brain really wasn't ready for actual good games yet. In 2015, I was a junior in high school. I was at a pretty low point in my life. I had been in therapy since the year before because of a bit of a nervous breakdown I had. My grandpa and dog had passed away in the span of like a month and I kept throwing up every day at school. And because of that, I missed like a month of that year going to different doctors and therapists trying to figure out what was wrong with me. It was a whole big thing. I had to meet with the principal and it sucked. I was improving by November of 2015. But I was still feeling pretty depressed, and something about the hype around Fallout 4 made me excited to get lost in an open world. For multiple months after the game came out, my life consisted of going to school, pretending to care but not paying attention, going home and playing Fallout 4 until bed. If you were to ask me what my opinion of Fallout 4 is right now, I'd tell you it's not a very good game, and even back then I think I might say the same thing, but there was just something about the way I could turn my brain off and pretend this world where I was a badass adventurer was the real one, and the one where I was an anxious loser failing all his classes escapes my mind for a while. That's enough about me in high school though. I just wanted to paint a picture of why I spent way too much time playing a game I really don't even think is that good. The way I would describe Fallout 4 is it's like a soup with really good broth and delicious vegetables, but instead of adding some nice meat and noodles, they just took a dump in it. You can try to eat around the shit, but you're gonna have to eat at least some of it. What I think Fallout 4 has proven to me is that rather than trying to improve the human feces in Bethesda's soups, they should just focus on making vegetable soups, or they could outsource the other stuff to companies who have proven they can make good meat and noodles. Alright, that's enough metaphor. It's time to explain what I mean. I'm going to describe the main story of Fallout 4. So if for some reason you still haven't played the game but also really don't want it spoiled for you, this is your warning to pause the video and play through the entirety of the game, and then come right back to this video after. I'll be waiting. You can actually play it for free with PlayStation Plus, so that's kind of cool. Alright, so depending on your gender choice, you're either a US Army veteran or... hold on. A college graduate? Why wouldn't you just both be veterans? They could have met in the army. You also have a son named Sean. He's a little baby. I'm sure he won't be important to the story at all. So you're chilling in your house when the shit starts hitting the fan. It's time to book it to the vault to avoid getting turned into a stain on the sidewalk. Once you're in the vault, Vault Tech puts you in this cryostasis thingy, and then freezes you for an amount of time that you won't know until later. Suddenly you're momentarily unfrozen to see your son get stolen and your spouse get capped. After being refrozen, remember this, you wake up sometime later and now it's time to explore the Commonwealth and look for your son. Or dick around because that's more fun. Which, I mean, you see why this isn't a good setup for a role-playing game, right? One of the main draws of an RPG is coming up with your own headcanon of who your character is, and being able to live in the game world with this character you've created. Some people like to make characters that identify with them personally, some like to make a character that satisfies an urge to be someone they wish they were in real life, and some just like to be assholes because when your life looks like this...
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
Sometimes you just need to take out some aggression on virtual people instead of real ones. And Fallout 4's story doesn't really scratch any of these itches. You have to be this specific person with this specific backstory looking for your specific son. Want to be a mysterious cowboy with morals informed by a tragic past? Nope. Want to be a former professional boxer and go around bashing raiders with your bare hand? Not gonna happen. Want to be gay? Not a chance, kid. Bethesda's for straights only. It feels like this main story should be in some sort of side game, not a mainline Fallout campaign. Like how there are the Star Wars movies and then there's like The Mandalorian. They could have called it Finding Sean, a Fallout story or something like that. Because this main quest and backstory for your character are so specific that you can't roleplay anything besides exactly what Bethesda has provided for you. So it's at this point in the story where your motivations as a player probably clash with that of the character you're controlling. When Fallout games open up after the tutorial, usually this is when you're going to want to explore, find side content, level up a bit before doing the main story. As for the player character, I don't know about you, but if I learned someone had killed my wife and ran away with my son, I would be sprinting towards wherever I can go to find them. And the first time you play this game, that's probably what you did. But for me, someone who knows what's happened to my son in the story and mainly plays this game just for the open world and exploration, I don't really care to go do the main quest because it kind of sucks. So we have this dilemma where as the player, I want to explore, but the character I'm controlling wouldn't want to do these things. So either I can suspend the part of my brain that wants to be involved in the role-playing of this story and ignore all the constant reminders of what this game wants me to care about.
Someone took him. Someone stole my son. Please, Mayor McDonough. This man Kellogg kidnapped my son. Give me Sean. The real Sean. Right now!
Or I can ignore what I want to do and the character I want to be just to do what the game wants me to do. There are two competing games inside of Fallout 4 and neither of them can reach their potential because of the other. Either you can make a story that encourages you to get to know all the factions and can be replayed from many different angles because of how open the world and story are like New Vegas, or you can have a really railroady story that forces you down a linear path to tell you a story that the developers want you to experience in exactly one way. Either of these options could make for a good game, like again New Vegas for the first example, or something like God of War or The Last of Us that focuses on narrative and want to tell you a well-written, usually, story that the developers have carefully crafted for you. Stories that are worth replaying for that very reason. Like watching a movie you've seen a million times but it just feels so good every time. For me personally, a game like this is Final Fantasy X. And I'm sure you have personal games like this where it's been a bad week and sitting down and reliving that story is exactly what you need. Bethesda wants to have their cake and eat it too. A problem some other developers seem to have when they're making open world games. For the sake of this video, I'm going to pretend I went straight to Codsworth because I just care so much about finding Sean. Ignore the fact that I'm wearing the clothes of some raiders I just murdered. Now I could explain every single thing that happens in the main story, but that would take really long and I don't think anybody really wants me to do that. So instead I'm just going to skip to the end of the story and talk about how lame the twist is. So long story short, there's this reclusive faction of people who think they're better than everyone, and they're focused on having all the best tech and knowledge for themselves. And the reason they killed your spouse, stole your son, and very creepily said is because they wanted someone who had never been exposed to radiation for their experiments. That's it. The reason they shot the parent of a newborn baby was because she didn't just let them snatch him from her hands with no explanation. Like, why not just say, come with us and we'll explain? Because then the story couldn't happen with this terrible twist. Also, it turns out that instead of this 10-year-old being your son, it's actually this old guy, because rather than being frozen for 10 years, you were refrozen for 60. And this twist is so infuriating because it seems like Bethesda thinks it's way better than it is. I remember my first thought when playing the game for the first time was, why does this character assume his son is still a baby or a young boy? I have no idea how long I've been refrozen, and for all I know, it could have been centuries. So the reason Bethesda severely handicapped the role-playing in a Fallout game, a series famous for its player freedom, is to tell a story that makes absolutely no sense. The thing that really gets me about this too is the fact that they just literally didn't need it. The best part of Fallout 4 is the gameplay loop of exploration, fighting, and looting. So why do you need to set up a story that actively conflicts with the player's desire to do those things? Like, they put so much effort and time into writing this story, just for it to be a worse setup for a game than Fallout 1's, which is, hey, this thing's broken, could you go find a piece for it? Just don't poop in the soup!
Uranium fever has gone and got me down. Uranium fever is spreading all around.
Alright, this is a little side note, and I don't know where else to put this in the video, but I don't like Bethesda's treatment of super mutants. It was established in earlier games that super mutants were just humans who got a little too much radiation, but Bethesda just likes to treat them like they're death claws or something. It's really jarring coming from New Vegas where super mutants can like all be talked to and reasoned with, to a certain extent, even having their own civilization in Jacobstown.
Not every super mutant is a brain-damaged brute. Many of us are just as intelligent as basic humans, and the rest don't really have any choice in the matter, do they?
And then coming to Fallout 4 where they're just these like head-empty monsters that want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. Meanwhile, Virgil's one of my favorite characters in Fallout 4 because they give him humanity. Getting his serum form became more important to me than anything in the main quest because I talked to him and got to know him as a person. I wasn't just told to care about him. I talked to him and I was given the option to help him, so I wanted to. But why aren't any other super mutants given this humanity? They're just big targets to shoot at when one of the main themes they're trying to beat you over the head with is that simps are people too. Is that since they're people too and don't deserve to be treated as less than, so why not give every race this level of humanity? I'm sorry to keep bringing up New Vegas in this video, but it's just such a perfect comparison. In New Vegas, none of the factions start aggro to you. Your actions throughout the game make some factions like you and other ones hate you. And then you can be attacked or can't go to certain places because of that. From the very first quest of the game, even then you can side with the Powder Gangers, who you'd think would just be this game's cannon fodder, but even they can be reasoned with because they have motivations and are people. Fallout 4 just treats raiders and super mutants and gunners all as these targets who are fun to shoot at, but this game has already left a hate comment and closed the video. I'm going to talk about some things I like about Fallout 4 and piss off a lot of you who have agreed with me up until this point. Fallout 4's gameplay is the best we've ever seen from a Fallout game. Ever. Period. Movement, gunplay, the overall feel of this game are a huge step up from everything that preceded it. And this is coming from someone who you know will take any opportunity to get on their knees for Obsidian. When I play New Vegas, I use VATS whenever possible, because trying to shoot at people regularly feels like trying to play pickup sticks with my butt cheeks. But Fallout 4 feels like an honest-to-God first-person shooter, with guns that feel fun to shoot and enemies that are fun to shoot at. I even like how VATS doesn't fully pause the game. It just puts it in slow motion, which keeps the game feeling fast-paced and engaging. While I can't really defend any of the main story, there are fun little things to find in this world. Like, for example, example, I really like the Salem Museum of Witchcraft. There's probably a quest that sends you here or something, but when I found it for the first time, it was because I saw a witch's hat show up on the HUD, and obviously that made me want to see what was up. Then I got there and it's this really cool old building with a big creepy tree, and you know I'm in if there's a creepy gothic aesthetic. So of course I try to go in, but the doors chain shut. So you walk around the side and...
What the hell is that?
Oh my... Connors! Where's the rest of him?
That's all the invitation I need. Let's head into the basement. Then it's super eerie inside and the building keeps shaking, but you don't know why.
Shit. Deathclaw.
Thanks. Anyway, you make your way upstairs, and it gets genuinely scary as you go along. You loot this body and you see it has a rocket launcher. Why would he have had this in here? Oh my god. Well, this looks like a perfect opportunity to use this baby. Oh. Oh. Some other things I like. I also like that they have this motif of having mannequins everywhere, because they kind of look like synths, and sometimes when you walk around a corner, it's really creepy. Ugh. I like how they decided to treat power armor like a real power-up, and that you need to save it for important occasions, because the fusion cores can be hard to come by. Before, power armor was just like a late-game armor set, because it was just better apparel than the others, but now it's this thing that makes you feel like you're in Pacific Rim. I also really like how deep the weapon customization is. Like, for example, sniper rifles are pretty hard to come by in New Vegas, but now with the right materials you can add a scope to a rifle and ta-da, it's a sniper. Also, a really underrated part of Fallout 4 is its ability to get players into seemingly random situations, just because of how the world is laid out. I don't sing Bethesda's praises very often because I'm not their biggest fan, but one thing I have to give them credit for is their ability to create an open world that's fun to explore. It feels like every little nook and cranny of the map has something that makes it worth digging into. Like when I was recording footage for that part about the Witch Museum, on the way there I started to get shot at by these dudes, and I noticed they were called Forged instead of just like Raiders or something like that. That intrigued me, plus I wanted to loot the people I shot on the roof, so I went in the building to explore. Then when you get to the top of the building, there's this whole like cutscene that happens where they wanted this guy to kill somebody, and I wasn't about to let that happen.
Anyway, I started blasting.
Then you pick up this really cool sword from the guy you just killed.
Bet if you bring my great-granddad's sword, he'll make it worth your while. He always tries to deal fair with people.
Uh-huh, yeah, sure, totally. When Fallout 4 has you loot and shoot, it's at its best. Does it get repetitive after a while? Of course. But in this game, Bethesda had an idea that was possibly their best one since having Obsidian make New Vegas. Settlements in Fallout 4 are a really cool idea for this universe, and it feels like the natural next step to the reputation system from New Vegas. I really like the idea of sending NPCs to settlements and trying to build little communes to make them happy. I think there's a lot of people who like this idea as well because there's so many mods to improve the base building mechanics. Add new walls, decorations, that sort of thing. I remember in high school watching videos about how to make really cool bases. The problem is they bit off a bit more than they could chew. They clearly had big ideas about the systems and the world they wanted to build for this game, and because of that, I just think they didn't have the time or resources to beef it up the way they needed to. But I definitely don't think they should give up on this idea just because it didn't really work here. Specifically in this post-apocalyptic universe, I really love the idea of base building. And I think this concept is so good you could build an entire game around it. Imagine starting settlements that eventually become as big as the Brotherhood, Enclave, or even NCR and run it as their leader. I think fans of this franchise would have a great time with this concept, because there are people that are still arguing about what the good ending of Fallout New Vegas was. Imagine how much those people would love a game where you can create your ideal wasteland society.
I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle, jingle, jangle, as I go riding merrily along.
So clearly this video was not just a bashing of Fallout 4, because I don't think that's what this game deserves. So much of video game criticism is just this game sucks or this game's the greatest game of all time, and a lot of people just don't leave any room for anything in between. Fallout 4 is a game that's really good at some things, mediocre at a lot of things, and really bad at some things that are really important. Things that are so important that I couldn't just recommend this game to people without telling them they should literally just ignore the story and main quest as much as possible. It's a game that's at its best when you're just exploring the open world, which is why I understand the idea they had for Fallout 76, but that doesn't mean I understand why they made it an MMO, or released it before it was finished. If this is the direction Bethesda is committed to taking this franchise, that's fine, but they're either going to need to outsource their story and quest writing, or just make open worlds with no main quest. Because with 3 and 4, Bethesda has proven to me that they're not capable of writing the type of story that keeps me interested in this franchise. And don't even get me fucking started on Creative Club.